Perfect. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. This is Anshula. Welcome to the Tableau Buddy TUG today. We are really looking forward to this session and thank you all for joining from different parts of the world. Tableau Buddy TUG is your go-to place for everything. This is your one-stop shop for multiple stuff. This was founded in 2021 and we have been doing a lot of things since then. Some of the major things that Tableau Buddy has been doing is one-on-one mentorships. Needless to say, we have got a lot of people connecting with us to get mentored. We've gone on one calls for more than 500 participants so far. This is completely free. We have not charged anybody any money for mentoring them. We're just providing simple career guidance and upskilling in Tableau so that people can use Tableau, be passionate about it, and the only reason why Tableau Buddy exists is to just help people around the world and talk everything data visualization and specifically Tableau. So we do a lot of mentorships. The Tableau Buddy Tug that you're joining today is one of the other initiatives that we do. This is specifically to give people from across the world an opportunity to come and talk anything that they have learned or known over the past few years. We're just giving people an opportunity, a platform to speak, and these everybody that we have as speakers on the Tableau Buddy Tug, they are upcoming voices in this community. So this data fam is very very passionate, we all know about it, and this Tableau Buddy Tug is mostly dedicated to providing voices to new and upcoming folks in the data fam. And finally, we have the Tableau Buddy Sandbox. This is something really new we've recently started. This is going to be an accelerator program where we're going to mentor around 18 learners across the globe, and this is going to be for a long period of 4 months. So it's going to be a very extensive program out here. It's going to We are taking the nominations for this, and the last date to enter into this is the 31st of October. So if you are wanting to be one amongst these 18 learners across the globe, please feel free to reach out to anybody from the Tableau Buddy group, or just directly DM me, Avinash. We have Prasan and Vani as well, and I will just give you their contacts in the upcoming slides. So just feel free to reach out to one of us, and we will let you know on the next steps here. All right. As I said, our vision as a Tableau user group is to provide people an opportunity, any new and upcoming voices an opportunity to come and join us. The only thing that we want is everybody to enjoy life and Tableau. So that's what we are for, and we look forward to as well. This is our team. As I said, please reach out to any one of us. We have Prasan and Vani who started this group. So they are with us from 2021, as I mentioned. Prasan is working for Emirates. He's a senior BI engineer over there. He's also a Tableau visionary and a social ambassador. Vani is also a Tableau social ambassador. She works at Expedia Group and is a data visualization engineer. Anshula Jain, I am a YouTube content creator and I have a channel called Techie Anshi on YouTube. Feel free to reach out to me or to subscribe to my channel. I am also a Tableau social ambassador and I work for Zoom as a data visualization expert. And finally, we have Avinash. He's also on the call today, co-hosting with me. Avinash is having a Viz of the Day for 2 times. He's also a TUG speaker. He's pretty active data fam member, and he works for Optum and is a senior data analyst over there. So this is our team. Feel free to reach out to us, connect with us on LinkedIn, and happy to speak anything, everything about Tableau and data visualization. This screen is where I would like to pause for a few seconds before we move on and head to the session. Uh, Please scan these QR codes if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We record all of our sessions that we host, and those are available on YouTube as well. Feel free to also join our WhatsApp group. We keep coming up with all sorts of updates here, and a lot of knowledge sharing happens on these groups as well. So I'm just going to pause here for a couple of seconds so that you can scan these codes, look for your phone, scan these codes, and just reach out to us and this channel specifically. Okay, if not, I'll also drop these in our chat channel so that you can still scan these QR codes as well. So the agenda for today is going to be pretty simple. We are going to have, we had the welcomes and we'll have the introductions. Today we were planning to have two presentations, one by Stanley, the other one was by Maria. But Maria, because of some climatic conditions in Pennsylvania, is not being able to join. So we will not be having the second session today. However, Stanley is with us and we are pretty excited for his presentation today. He's going to present on the performance dashboards, and he's going to give us a guide on how beginners can get started and add values to their businesses by, gathering the right requirements and delivering insights out of dashboards. So really looking forward to Stanley's presentation today. However, we don't have Maria and she's safe. She's safe. Everything's fine, but just that she is not able to join the call today. And in the end, we'll have a quick Q&A session. So we can take any questions that you have about the Tableau Buddy group or with respect to the presentation today, and happy to answer any of those as well while the whole thing continues. So feel free to, just keep in your questions coming in through the chat or just ping us directly and we can see if we can answer some of your stuff. So with that, I would hand over to Avinash so that he can do a quick intro for Stanley.
Yeah,
Over
thanks,
to you,
Anshula.
Avinash.
Thank you very much. So, so thank you everyone for joining, and thanks to you, Stanley, for joining us today. So, we're really excited and looking forward for this session. So, today, as Anshula mentioned, so we have Stanley and Maria, and she's unable to join, so we're just going ahead with Stanley. So as you can see on the screen, so we have Stanley Guy. So he's the Tableau Academic Ambassador for 2024, and also he is working in the Business Analytics undergrad in the Buckwell University. And I got to know an interesting thing from present. So like Glenn Fridge was teaching Stanley, so definitely he has a lot of insights and a lot of new things he might have learned from him. So we are really looking forward from you that. So yeah, so with that, so I'll hand over back to Stanley. So feel free to share when you're ready. Obviously, no pressure. So take your time and walk us through your sessions. Thanks, Stanley.
Right. Thank you, Avinash and Shula here. Let me share my screen. Okay. Cool. Can everyone see my slideshow? Good?
Yeah.
All
Good.
right. Cool. So Stanley speaking here. Today, our topic is performance dashboard, a beginner guide to delivering value-added information for business impact. The topic of today is not to tell you how to build a dashboard. Instead, we are here to explore and try to understand why do we build a dashboard and how do we go about asking the why question. Now, first of all, why is it important to build value-added dashboards, right? Think about dashboard as a piece of information, right? You can tell cells, you can tell numbers, you can show a charts to show something, to present the data. But that data at the end of the day, right, it's still a number. How do we make sure that number, that data, that chart, the dashboard you are presenting actually has value to the business stakeholder and make an impact within the organization. That is what we are here to explore and learn altogether. First of all, little bit more about myself. My name is Stanley. I am a fourth year undergraduate student majoring in business analytics at Bucknell University. And yes, Ken used to work for our school. We had some brief interactions, but he had moved on to the industry. It was very nice and good for him. Beyond that, I am also working part-time with an organization called HealthRise, doing some business intelligence dashboarding for them, helping them to understand their data better and deliver value to their clients. This year, I have been in the community engaging with everyone who is passionate about Tableau as a academic ambassador. That is a lot about me. So the kind of the roadmap of today, I typically don't call these things table of content. Instead, I want to think about them as the takeaways that you will have at the end of this presentation. So here is what we are going to go through, and hopefully you will pick up something that you can apply immediately, maybe tomorrow, next week, in your office for your project, for your next visualization project. First of all, we are going to define what does success look like for business intelligence professional. What do we do? Why do we do? And how do we do it? And then we are going to incorporate a few concepts from business performance management requirements gathering to show you how can you achieve that. And at the end, we are going to share a few tips and tricks that I have picked up from my way journey of learning that help me and my teams to deliver values to our stakeholders. First of all, let's start with a little bit of storytelling and narrative here. Let's ask ourselves this question: what is business intelligence, right? We have dashboards, we have data, we have a lot of things going on under this term. Now, if I think about 2 years ago, before I joined the community and actually getting hands-on in the industry, I would say, well, business intelligence is present data to offer insights. Well, that sounds not bad, right? We work with data, we put them into charts, we kind of highlight some outliers or trends, disparity in that data, and that become insights. But today, I'm going to perhaps to convince you that maybe presenting data alone isn't enough. Let's start with the story here. Let's imagine Daniel is my business partner, and he wants to understand, well, why did the company's inside sales not doing so good? Because perhaps his boss, right, mentioned this situation in a meeting today. So Daniel came to me trying to get the data, trying to understand what happened and go from there. And I said, okay, sure, I can do the query for you. I can show you the number. I can plot a chart. And I delivered this number. Well, it looks like the inside sale from the last quarter was $400. My job is done, right? I offered Daniel what Daniel is asking for. And Daniel will be like, well, yeah, that number doesn't look so good. And today is a Friday, right? I can pack up. I should be able to go back home without any concerns because I answered Daniel's questions. Because Daniel asked me for a number and I gave him that number. But for Daniel, right, my business partner, is he happy with that? Well, technically, yes, because he got the answer. But did this answer help Daniel to create an impact and call for action for the next step? Probably no. Why is this happening? Here's my conclusion. I think data people think in metrics, whereas business people think in context. And what does it mean? Everyone here in this meeting today, right? We are Tableau experts, beginners, practitioner. we use Tableau every day. So when I tell you, hey, this metrics sales by customer, what will be thinking? I think as a data person, right? When I say sales by customer, you will be thinking, well, I'm going to drag sales into columns and drag customer ID into rows. So I'm breaking down sales by customers. There you go. There's a table or a chart, a bar chart perhaps, right? But for business people, when you mention sales by customer, what they are thinking in their head is, well, I know my top 5 customers are generating the most amount of profit. I know customers from different region, some are more profitable, some are less profitable. I know my boss perhaps has an incentive of offering promotion to attract more customers. So there will be a surge in sales for this period of time and not in the other. What just happened in this distinction? Well, data people is really good at providing metrics, but business people offer the context around that metrics to offer you a holistic and comprehensive understanding of why that metrics matter and how that metric alone relate to everything else. With this understanding now, I'm going to replay this narrative here, right? Daniel is going to come to me, say, hey, Stanley, I think the sales is not doing good. Can you help me here? Now, Daniel is my treasurer, right? Because he is the business partner. He understands the story, and I'm the data person. I can pull the data. We need both, right, to create impact. What I would do instead is I'm going to say, well, before I give you that number, let's ask more questions. Can you share a bit on the story behind it? Why this matter is being brought up in that company's meeting? How does your job contribute to the inside sales? How does your job relate to this number that you care about, right? What are the drivers and outcome of inside sales? Here we are trying to get, right, how does this number relate to others? Is there other particular time frame you can compare the time series trend change, right, of inside sales to understand what happened? Here is an example of how you can ask questions in a way to get your business partner started thinking. And now, right, Daniel is going to share the story, the context, and why this inside sales matter to us. With the information Daniel is going to give me, I will be able to understand the context and offer more information than simply telling Daniel, "Wow, your sales last month was $400," and then leaving them confused, right? So the difference we are making here is business intelligence is no longer present that data, right? That's what I did the first time. I told Daniel I have, well, I pulled the data, it's $400 last quarter, my job is done. We are going to replace this definition with what we will be discovering today. Business intelligence is gather the context and goals of the business problem and deliver analysis to make an impact. We are going to tackle this kind of perspective in many different ways today, but hopefully for now, we are going to have a context understanding of where we are heading to. And I have this formula here, right? Why is more important than how is more important than what. Think about what numbers you put on the dashboard, what charts you have on the dashboard, how is how you build it, and why do those numbers and charts has to be there? Are they useful? Could there be other charts potentially being added to the dashboard? Without understanding why we are building the dashboard, we are not going to get to the what, right? Hopefully you enjoy the story, and now is where the fun things are going to get started. We are going to talk about how do we select the right medium to use, choose the right type of dashboard to use, and gather the right metrics to put onto that dashboard. This slide, right, it might look familiar to you. We are kind of having a scoping and planning phase of what type of dashboards we are going to build. For dashboards, we have strategic, tactical, and operational. Now you can think about operational having more data, have lower granularity, right? It could be a table, whereas strategic is more executive dashboard. There will be KPIs and less charts, but more financial perspective. In comparison, scorecards, I'm giving two examples here. We have targets and measurement, as well as balanced scorecards. If you are familiar with these two concepts, you are going above and beyond. If these two terms sounds new to you, stay tuned. We are going to show you example of both in later slides. Why am I bringing these examples up? Why does it matter? Why do we need to understand the differences between them? Now, here I'm offering a few examples. What will kind of set these different type of dashboards and scorecards apart? First, level of details. What is level of details? Well, if you use Tableau enough, you might be thinking level of detail expression, right? Fix, include, exclude. But here, that's two different things. Here, level of details means, am I looking at the most granular level of detail, or am I looking at the aggregated level of detail? Why does it matter? If you are in an operational dashboard, you want to see kind of a lower level of granularity. You want to see each single transaction flowing in. You don't want to aggregate anything. Whereas in a strategic executive dashboard, you want higher level of granularity, higher level of detail, right? You don't want to pull transaction data for your executive in their monthly reporting. You want to aggregate the sales, aggregate your total customer, and a lot of aggregation, right? That's why level of details is important. And same thing applies to number of visuals, number of metrics. Think about if you are operating a call center, you're operating a dispatch center, perhaps more information, more metrics, more visuals is going to help you to get a sense of what is happening, right? That's operational. Whereas in tactical and strategic reporting, you might want less, right? You are not going to put 20, 30 KPIs, right, into one executive dashboard. So number of visuals and number of metrics are also important. Interactivity. This is a really interesting point. I think especially in Tableau, right? You have dashboards, actions, parameter actions, sets action, dynamic zone visibility. There is a lot of things we can play around with, kind of designing this UI perspective in the dashboard. But here's the kind of the caution of interactivity, because in operational dashboard, sometimes the operator has to make kind of their decision really quick, right? It could be a few minutes, it could even be a few seconds. So if the dashboard is built with too much interaction, too many buttons to click, that might kind of work against their interests. Where in a tactical dashboard, I will be doing more exploratory analysis. I'm going to try to pull more information to see, what if I filter this? What if I group things in A, B, C different ways, right? Then more interactivity might help there. And the last point here, level of cascading. This is something we're going to go into details later, but it basically means what we are cascading. We are cascading metrics and performance indicators, right? The performance and KPI, right, at the executive level is now the same KPIs at the operational level. We are going to have a detailed slide on that later. Now, things to think about when you are scoping and planning for your dashboards. First, who will be using it? Is it executive? Is it manager? Is it operator, right? Like we said before, for operator, more information. For executive, maybe more aggregated information. What's their purpose? Do they want to monitor? Do they want to analyze? Or do they want to drill to detail? If they just want to monitor, maybe it helps to have a target, right? This is my monthly sales target, and I'm going to build a bullet chart showing them where you are in relation to the target. That's monitor. Drill to detail, right? Maybe sometimes the operator wants to pull like detailed transaction information. Maybe they need a table, right? That's in regards to their purpose. How often do they open the dashboards? Do they load the dashboard every day, every few hours, or every week, every month, or every year? Why that is important? Well, I think a lot of time, some dashboards will take a lot of time to load. Some time will take less. Does it matter? Well, if my dashboards take, let's say, 30 seconds to load, well, if that's a monthly or annually reporting dashboard, that might be fine. But if it's something that the operator is going to be opening it every few hours, maybe that 30 seconds can be a lot. And the last point here, do they want to do careful analysis or just skim through it, right? That comes back to our previous point, how much interaction that we want to offer in that dashboards. And we're just going to go through a few examples in choosing the right type of dashboard to use. Let's consider this following scenario. An operator wants to drill to detail, and this operator visits the dashboard quite frequently to do careful analysis. The solution offering would be an operational dashboard because it's an operator. You want as much of information as possible. You want to be able to drill to details. You might want to pull a table out of it. You want to see the most granular level of detail. And an operator, you're going to be looking at this dashboard frequently. You want it to load fast. You want to perform careful analysis. That's why different chart types describing different information will help. In the next scenario, let's say an executive or manager wants to monitor the business performance. They're going to look at this quite frequently, maybe perhaps monthly, even weekly, to see how their team is doing. But they're not going to perform analyses in the dashboard. They're just going to be looking at it and get a sense of where they are. In this case, the solution offering would be a target and measurement scorecards. What is the scorecards here? Well, you have a target. This is what I want to hit and how much I'm there in relation to my target. In this example on the right here, we have color, right? Coding, red is bad, pink is okay, green is good. Straightforward, there's no complex interaction. And by looking at it, you can get a sense of the health of your operation. And the last one is going to be interesting. Let's say my executives alone, they want to analyze their business, they want to explore their business strategy, but they are not going to review and update their strategy frequently, right? Organizations have to be consistent in what they do, why they do, and how they do it. But they want to be careful, right? They want to have careful analysis to map out their strategy. In this case, we are going to offer this balanced scorecard. Many of you may not have heard about this. This is a concept that I was not aware of until I was introduced to this balanced scorecard earlier this year. What it does is it basically breaks down your organization's objective into four perspectives. There: financial, customer, learning and growth, as well as internal processes. Under these four kind of big segments, you are going to have what do you want to do here. For example, for financial perspective, in this example here, we are saying, well, I want to maintain business growth. I want to maintain business growth. That is a kind of objective in natural language, right? And now we are actually going to define metrics and measurements to reflect where you are, how you are doing, are you meeting the target of that objective. So here we have revenue, right, in thousands. So for each scorecards here, we are going to first define what is the business objective, and then immediately afterward, right, we pull that relevant metrics to show how you are doing in terms of hitting that performance kind of target. So that's the balance scorecards. Here, we were talking a lot about metrics, right? And when I got started learning Tableau, pretty much every number can be called a KPI. So there could be 20 different KPI in a dashboard. But in fact, right, numbers are just a measure. Some measures is a well-defined metrics, but not all of the metrics are useful to monitor your business performance. Only a subset of it can become your performance indicators. Others are just kind of describing what is going on, not necessarily important to monitor the performance. And out of the subset of performance indicators, only a small subset of it is going to be our key performance indicator. So why this is important? I think a lot of time when I started exploring the data, my flow of building a dashboard early on was kind of like, well, that number look interesting. I'm going to put it as a band, right? Make it big. And oh, that number I think is important. I'm going to put it here. That way of building a dashboard is really dragging in what is available rather than thinking what is important. And I think understanding this kind of Venn diagram sort of subsets, and funneling down to our KPI, this way of thinking about what performance indicator to display, it has really helped me and my teams to find the right metrics, the right number, and tell that story that is actually relevant. And another definition to introduce here is leading versus lagging indicator. Why is this important? I think first, let's define what is leading versus lagging. Think about you run a company and then you have your marketing team engaging the customers, and finally these customers going to make a deal. That's how you generate profit. In this case, your revenue, right, your financial indicator is going to be lagging because they happened after your marketing team engage with your potential customers. Why understanding the relationship is important is because sometimes, right, when we get a question, why the sales decreased? Why did this kind of customer count decreased? Well, just looking at that sales and customer count is not going to help you because they are the outcome of what other teams are doing. And to troubleshoot why, right, why this trend is either trending up or down, we need a clearly defined relationship between what is leading and what is lagging, so we know when a lagging indicator is affected, where to find that leading indicator that is making that change. And this slide is kind of the last slide of this part of the presentation. And I know there's a lot of text box going on here, but the big picture, that the takeaway here is we are going to define what does cascading means. Well, cascading basically means there's one level from the very top level, right? And something from there falls over to the next level, and something from there falls over to the next level. And cascading metrics here, what we are saying is, well, at the executive level, maybe, right? Let's say I run an airline business. My objective is to create stakeholder values, to create business growth, to create like a sustainable business. That's an objective. What performance indicator indicates that? Well, maybe total revenue. It could be customer count. It could be customer loyalty. Depending on the organization, that could be different. And that's what matters to the executive level. When it comes down to department, let's say we are kind of an airport operation center. Does the company's kind of total revenue matter to me? Yes, sort of. That's what we are working towards. But my job is to control our operations. I don't have any influence on that revenue directly, but my, let's say, on time rate, right? Turnover time. That's what I have control of. So the kind of my key performance indicator would not be total revenue, even though what I do contribute to my upper level KPI. But my KPI is going to be, let's say, flight on time rate. When we cascade one level down, let's say we are the kind of the airport's ground agent, right? We are checking in passengers. I'm scanning our boarding pass. At this point in the story, does my company's revenue matter to me? Probably no. Does my on time rate matter to me? Yes, that's what my kind of upper level is monitoring. But what mattered to me now is how do we get the final few passenger on board the plane? So the cascading metric is important to map out the key performance indicators at different level and stages of the organization. Even though the most top level performance indicator, it may not be relevant to everyone else, but by cascading the metrics and KPI here, we can have a clear definition and understanding of what metrics to build in which dashboard, right? So that's the idea of cascading, and I know it can be confusing. If you have questions later, I'm happy to spend more time on the concept. Now, we have been talking about different type of dashboards, metrics, and their use cases. But how do we know which one is the right type to apply, right? Because for the whole time, it has been Stanley creating kind of fake examples. They're hypothetical and making things up here. How do we actually extract the scenarios and context in reality such that we can build the right type of solution? And to make that happen, right, there is a key skill that I call data people soft skill is requirements gathering. Remember back to the narrative we started the presentation, right? I was asking a lot of questions to my business partner such that I understood what is important and why it matters. And then from there, we know what's the right type of dashboard to build. And in the upcoming slides, we are just going to introduce some example questions that's helpful to ask the business stakeholders and partners to kind of uncover the underlying scenarios, context of the business problem. And the first set of questions we are going to be focusing on identifying scope and your user persona. These are the example questions we can ask. We can ask, well, what task do you need help with? What goal do you wish to achieve? What information have helped you to accomplish that goal in the past, right? And by asking these type of questions, you kind of try to let the business partner to think in a data people's mindset, right? What metrics have helped me in the past, and what charts other people have created for me that we can kind of take that over to the dashboard. Where and when will you interact with data? Are they going to be looking at their small laptop screen or a large monitor in the office? That matters to us because, right, how many charts can be put together in one screen? Is the audience strategic or operational? How much detail was the granularity, right, in the dashboard? How much time does the audience have to extract useful information? This is an important one. Why? Because back to interaction, right? Do you want people to play around with it, to click around, to use filter, or is simply seeing target? Am I hitting the target? Yes or no, right? Monitoring the business. does the user produce information to help others, right? Should we have this export to CSV function? Should we allow them to download? Should we allow them to share? Next stage, we are going to try to find the right metrics to use. Well, when you ask, right, a business partner, what is the right metrics to use, they will probably be confused because what is a metrics and what metrics are available, what metrics are relevant. If you do data modeling, right, in your organization, that's probably pretty clear to you. But for the business partners, they don't do data modeling. They don't understand the data relationship, and asking question in like natural language would really help to extract that information. Here are some example questions to ask. You can ask, well, how do you identify opportunities and challenges? How do you interact with existing dashboards? What do you need to know next if something is happening? This is my favorite question to ask. Think about a scenario where you build a dashboard, you have all of the things that you were planning to incorporate, right? You have all of the numbers, you have all of the charts. You show this to the partner, the user of the dashboard, and they say, well, that dashboard doesn't really answer my questions because now I see sales declined here, but I want to see why. And this dashboard doesn't tell me why. And me as a developer, I will be like, well, you never told me you want that part, right? So this question, what do you need to know next if you see something is happening in the chart you requested for? This is going to help to get them started thinking, well, let's say something increased, something decreased, what do I need to know next, right? So we can have all of that potential charts being gathered the first time you interviewed your user. How do you measure success? What's the most important business goal? How do you know if the goals are being achieved, right? Are we setting a target percentage growth, or are we setting kind of an absolute value you have to meet, let's say 10,000 of closed deals by the end of the week, things like that. And lastly, we want to build personal and trusted connection with the user such that you always keep them in the loop throughout the process in the development. And to make that happen, right, we can ask questions like, what are the critical success factor of your job? How does your job contribute to the business goal? What exploratory analysis have you performed in Excel? Typically, right, they are going to have a graduate, a really fancy Excel workbook for us to kind of reference what potential charts, right, they want to see in their dashboards. And the quick roundup here in terms of requirements gathering, right? We have 4 kind of dimensions. We want to make sure we have the information about it to be successful when we are actually developing the dashboard. The scope, what's the task, the persona, who will be using it, when and where and how, right? Is it on the phone? Is it on computer? How frequently do you interact with it? Time frame, right? How frequently will the data be updated, and how frequently will the dashboard be visited? Back to our previous discussion on loading time, right? Is it going to take 5 seconds or 30 seconds? Granularity level of detail. Do they want to see the most granular level of transaction level, right, information coming as table, or do they want to see aggregates? Now, after we have that kind of requirements being gathered, understood the problem, now we can pull the trigger, right, to actually build it. And like I said earlier in the beginning of the presentation, this session, we don't talk about a technical build, we talk about how we build it and why we build it. So here, I really want to introduce this agile methodology in developing dashboards. And for many of you, you might already be familiar with this. It's kind of like a software engineering concept, right? You have different sprints, and at each sprint you define the goal and you execute the plans, right? And then you prototype and test your idea and have kind of a finished product that is ready to launch. And speaking of the whole project, right? Nothing is done within one sprint. You have multiple sprints, and then you kind of revise, redefine your goals after the launch is getting back feedbacks. Why is this important for dashboards? For many of the projects I delivered in the past, how it's kind of worked is, well, if I have let's say 14 days, 2 weeks to build a dashboard from scratch. And what I would do is, well, I'm going to spend, let's say, 12 days because I know developing dashboards is going to take time. I'm going to take 12 days, and then I'm going to have this finished product, and then gather the feedbacks from the user at the 12th day, right? When I have this whole thing finished, and then kind of make the edits in the last 2 days. But what happens in reality is the amount of adjustments that the user is going to ask us to do is going to be a lot. And in fact, a lot more than what we can typically handle if we don't leave enough time to make it happen. So this agile methodology really helps us to break down this development and delivery. Instead of I'm going to give it one shot now, I'm going to give it 3, 4, 5 shots. We do incremental delivery, we gather feedback. Maybe the first version of your sprint is going to look terrible. There's not going to be interaction. Even the charts are not complete. But showing something, right, to the user is going to get them start thinking, and they're going to be asking to include more functionality, more information into the dashboards. And as the sprint kind of continues up in the pipeline, the last few sprints, we are not going to be struggling with, well, you ask me 80 hours of work and I have 10 hours to do it. And to wrap up the presentation today, there's just going to be a few general tips and tricks that have helped me and my teams to deliver successful projects, right? First, less is more. This is what happened. It was a big challenge to me when I first started building dashboards, right? You want to build this chart, you want to build that pie chart, you want to have filters, you want to have many different things going on in the dashboard. But in reality, the user don't always want to see that much of information, and not everyone need to see the same amount of of information, right? Think about our earlier conversation on, is it strategic or is it operational? Use design principles to highlight key messages. Dashboards are going to be busy. There's going to be KPIs, there's going to be charts, there's going to be filters. There's a lot of things happening on one screen. But what is the key message, right, from the dashboard? If it's a financial perspective, it could be highlighting whether or not you are hitting the performance target, right? You could have an indicator to draw people's attention to a specific corner of your dashboards. That's really help them to see, well, by looking at it for the first few seconds, I already know, is this good or bad? Am I meeting the target or no, right? Interactivity is great, but not always desired, right? We had a conversation. Sometimes it's nice to play around with it, but depending on the use cases, user might just want to see a quick message, good, okay, or bad. Include help function and data catalog and metadata, right? This is once again the difference kind of between data people and business people, right? We do data modeling, you understand the relationship between data, you understand how each metric is computed and calculated, but that may not be as straightforward for the business user. So it always helps to have maybe an information icon, right, to show them well, this is how total sales is calculated. This is the time frame of this calculation. This is what is included and what is excluded. That will help you to kind of avoid a lot of meetings and discussion and emails kind of talking about what does each number actually mean. Stick to global filters rather than local filters. And here, global versus local really means, do you let the filters to apply to one single worksheet or all worksheets on the dashboards, right? Typically, right, if you are building a dashboard, we want the users to make selection one time, and that's going to change every single wheel in the same dashboards. Otherwise, that will cause confusion. If I change it here, why the other chart is not updating, right? Nested dimensionality, adding more details within restrained visual space. This is where kind of the graphic design principle kind of shine, right? We have our basic chart types, right? Bar charts, line charts, sometimes pie charts. They're good to kind of show pretty much 80% of the use cases. But there are other times where it can help to be creative, where your data comes in more than 2 dimensions. So that's the time you can leverage color, size, and kind of other visual cues to kind of nest more details into the same charts. Ask questions, meet up, gather feedback, and revise, right? The agile methodology. This is not a big shot at the end, right? You don't want to pull the trigger only one time. You want to pull the trigger 5 times, such that it guarantees the success, right? You are always gathering feedback, always making improvements, always getting something new from the business partner in terms of what it actually wants and what they are actually working on, right? And then you kind of leverage that information, incorporate that to the next sprint to develop and incorporate new functionality in the dashboards. Be open-minded and try to understand what other people are thinking. I think this is my biggest takeaway when I started to work in groups rather than kind of working alone to build everything on my own. People will have kind of different opinions. Some people will say, well, I think this filter doesn't make sense. I think that button should be this way. I think there maybe something you build doesn't make sense to them. And I think this can be hard to kind of understand why, but having that conversation is really helpful, because if someone else is pointing out a potential confusion that your dashboard could cause to the user, it doesn't necessarily so the message is not to just agree with whatever they're suggesting, but I think it's a good indication that maybe we need to revise the way that it's currently being done. All right, that's about my presentation on performance dashboards, gathering and delivering value-added information for business impact. I hope you enjoy the presentation and have some takeaways that you can apply tomorrow, next week in the office for a next project or the next visualization you are going to upload to Tableau Public. We're open to questions here. If anyone have questions, I'm happy to answer in the chat.
Yeah,
Or
there are few questions, Stanley, but before we go there, so this is really informative and fantastic because you had given very comprehensive view of the performance dashboard and how we can lay a path to achieve that. So that is really good to see. There are a couple of questions. Uh, the first one is from Eric. I see in the chat, like, could you say BI is delivering information so specific to addressing and solving the problem? It is also offering the strategy recommendations.
great question. So I think when you think about there is actually a topic that I was thinking to include in the presentation that I didn't include it. Now, when you talk about BI, everyone in the in the marketplace and the organization is going to be talking about AI. And we know that today, right, there is a lot of applications and existing software that it can easily, you type in some natural language and it's going to pull information from a data warehouse and plot a chart for you. So what I'm getting here today in this presentation is BI, right, professional shouldn't be understood as that person who can pull data and make a chart. Instead, business intelligence, we should kind of elaborate more on business strategy, business concept, the context, and right, what are we actually dealing with, and how do we align information to help you achieve that goal. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, I hope so. Eric, and there are two more questions. So, do you think technology is increasing how often the executives or operators look at their dashboard? For example, dashboards becoming accessible on more on mobile devices, and how much that does affect how you design a dashboard?
So I think that comes to the technical part um, of building information system and dashboards. I think uh, that really comes back to what we were talking about earlier on identifying the scope and user persona, right? Technology on the phone, on the screen, on the laptop, on the monitor, it doesn't really matter. I think what matters more is we are able to ask good questions to understand the use case. The technical build part is going to be simpler and simpler as we have more technology, right? We have different vendors. Tableau is doing a lot of great stuff in agent force, all of the Tableau agents, right? There's chatbot on the phone. You can easily extract data. That's saving us a lot of time, right? To build a specific technical solution. In my opinion, I think what the kind of the BI professionals should focus on doing in 2024 is not to think about what to build and what chart, what data to pull. Instead, is to think, how do we design the journey? How do we uh, draw the persona to design the experience? How the user is going to interact with data. What do they want to see first, right? Do they want to see a target? Do they want to see a scorecard and then a chart? Or I should give them a parameter to let them to explore. Every use case is different, right? But we know we have the technology solution. What will really make a BI professional shine is to design this experience, how your user interact with the data, and use that kind of interaction experience to come to it's either an insight or impact, like more quickly and effectively.
Great. So there's one more question from Eric. Like, does it make sense to put in what you need to know next in X and Y in cascading metrics?
Yeah, so when you are cascading the matrix, right? So it's more like there are kind of different things. Cascading metric means we are trying to map out what metric is important to which level of business. Whereas, what do you need to know if X and Y and Z is happening, right? That
Yeah.
is more about when you have located the specific level of user, and
Yeah.
then you want to ask them, well, yes, I know uh, on time rate is your performance indicator, and what do you need to know next if you see this percentage is increasing or decreasing? So you would ask this, what do you need to know next question to different level of user after we have cascaded, if that's the word, our company's kind of organizational strategies and aligned that objective to the metrics.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Stanley, for answering those questions. So I think those are all the three questions I can see from chat and also from direct messages. So I think that concludes our session today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the session. And again, thank you very much to you, Stanley, for coming up and presenting in Tableau Buddy TUG session today. So I hope we're gonna looking forward to see you again in our session and as well as the all the attendees. So yeah, Anshula, do you have anything to share before we conclude?
Sorry.
No, I think we should be good. Thank you for checking, Ash.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks,
Great
Anshula.
session. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks a
Stanley.
lot.
Again, looking forward to see you again. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. See you next
Bye
time.
bye.
Bye bye.